Welcome. This is going to be a good afternoon episode. I like to tell everyone, I hope you had a good day today. My name is Brian. I am going to share with you a great story from a historian named Andrés Reséndez, and he wrote a book titled The Untold Story of Native American Slavery. I have a long form video on my channel that I did 7 months ago. But now that I have updated equipment, I am going to shed light on this topic and do it justice. So this is going to be informative. We're going to talk about um, the conquest of Mexico, the Americas. We're going to talk about the indigenous cultures that existed in the Americas prior to colonization. This information is one of my favorite topics to discuss as a historian because most people learn about other cultures before learning about the cultures that existed here. And I always wanted to know why we didn't talk more about the indigenous tribes, the Native American tribes, and why we are not taught to look at the Americas as a continent. Most people that live in the United States don't, or from my experience, are not taught to look at the Americas as a continent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a few minutes to let the room build up before I start my presentation. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. I titled this Beyond Columbus, the Untold Story of Native American and Slavery. As stated previously, this is going to cover the book written by historian and professor Andrés Reséndez, who at the time of the book that he wrote in 2016 was a professor at the University of California. So this is not some mumbo from people with credentials, right? And people always like to say cite your sources. So that's going to be the primary source that I'm using for this. But also in the book and on this big bibliography page, it has numerous sources, and I actually have the book here with me. Um, I will also say go out and buy the book if you're interested in this topic. It's a lengthy read, but if you knock out a few pages every day, you'll get through it. That's what my college professor, Dr. Brian McGowan, told me, and that's how I attack books. Let's say you have a book that's 300 pages. If you can read 10 pages a day in 30 days, you'll finish the book. I just gave you a cheat code. Um, so that's what this is going to be about. I'm going to let the music take us to where we need to go and let the ancestors guide us. So thank you for joining the stream. This is going to be a really good one. As stated before, my name is Brian, and this is one of my most favorite topics to discuss. I could really sit and for lengthy periods because it is so fascinating. And no matter how much you learn, I am still learning. I am still learning. Okay. Um, we're going to get started. So one of the things I want to talk about is that's the cash out, guys. I'm going to periodically put that up there to help support the mission of what we do here. A lot of times, guys, when we speak the truth, it could come with people wanting to get us demonetized, or people trying to stop us from speaking the truth by telling us that they're going to dox us or find out our names, report it to a job or something like that. So that's why I have that up there. And also, it is my goal to use my social media platform to help replace or help contribute to my income. Okay. So I'm actually in the process of building my social media to become a good form of income for me, because I give good information, it's informative, it's constructive, and I am still learning. Okay. So, first things first, we're going to talk about this book right here. Now, it's going to be backwards to you, but this is a book called The Other Slavery by Andrés Reséndez, The Uncovered Story of Indian Enslavement in the Guys, um 8 months ago, and it was a fantastic read. And so I am going to do a presentation. So with no further ado, we're going to get into this topic, okay? And I know that when we talk about our history, our existence, it has a tendency to make people upset. So I am going to discuss some things that may be seen as controversial. Okay. If you've seen the picture on my if you can see this picture, this is a picture of the Mayans. Okay. Now, this isn't a picture that Brian made. A picture that Mayans left of themselves. Okay. And they love cuneiform, hieroglyphics. They love images of themselves in stone, much like the Egyptians. They built pyramids. They famous for their calendar, but they were not the first tribes in the Americas. We know that they had one of the oldest tribes were the Olmecs in Central America by Veracruz. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And first, we're going to address some of the people that's been leaving on some hateful comments on my YouTube channel. Now, I don't mind the haters because, it's publicity, but people leave really mean comments sometimes. And what I think about when I see this is, what would make a person do this? Okay. What would make let's go to this one. Let's share my screen. Okay. So some people leave great comments, but I want to focus on this one called Troll. I posted this video. Americans are being shipped from the New World to Spain and Europe. Native Americans in Spain will begin to find themselves in the courts, and they're going to start protesting their freedoms. Um, in the Spanish enslaving the Native Americans, they favored to enslave the women over the men. So it was like 2 to 1 compared to the African slave trade, which was going on simultaneously, right? It was 2 males to every 1 female, but in the Native American slavery, it was 2 females to every 1 male. So they would take these Native Americans and they would ship them to Spain and Europe and put them in servitude, and they were being sent there to be domestics. A lot of people don't know that Native Americans, soon as the Spanish came, was being sent to the New World. Native Americans are being okay. Now this guy wrote, and I read this I think early in the morning. This guy wrote, "Hunter Scavengers Unite," and he has a picture. And this guy has 0 subscribers. So this is just a straight up troll account. Okay. Now this is important because these are the type of people, believe it or not, that leave hateful comments. It's always somebody that doesn't have a platform. It's always someone that doesn't have a platform that's going to leave. Hunter Scavengers Unite, right? It's a play on hunter gatherers, okay? Now, I really don't mind, but I wanna clear the air and talk about people that leave hateful comments. It says more about you than it does the person who is creating content. That's a gem. So okay, getting into the message today, okay. We have been looking at different videos discussing this. Um, and some people have been really kind, and I'm going to post why this is important. So first I'm going to talk about some current events. So I'm going to play some clips from my channel, and then after I play some clips from my channel, we are going to talk about how we got here. Why is there friction between Latinos, Native Americans, people who pastor white, people now labeled as African American or Negro? Most people don't know that our groups have been intermingling for over 500 years. Did you know that? Some people act like white people, Latinos, black people, Asians, that we have all just miraculously met each other. This is why the idea of racism doesn't make much sense, because people have been intermingling for a very long time. So I'm going to play this clip for you guys.
That exists within the Latin American communities. When I went to go talk to them, they said that we don't like African Americans because they feel that we owe them.
To their belief, we love y'all, and black people don't feel like you owe us anything except common decency and the same respect we give to the Hispanic.
Wait, hold on. Let me start that over.
Let's talk about the anti-blackness that exists within the Latin American communities. When I went to go talk to them, they said that we don't like African Americans because they feel that we owe them something.
Well, contrary to their, and black people don't feel like you owe us anything except common decency and the same respect we give to the Hispanic and Asian community. We know how you talk about us. Why you with that black guy? Your kids are going to be dark. Don't let that red in my house. We see the hate, but we don't share that same hate for you.
Play it for you guys. Okay, so the reason why I played that video, one, the nasty comment that someone left me, two, the video of the Latina sister talking about the relationship between people classified as Negro or Black and Latinos, okay? And then the black guy responded saying that it's no beef on the black side, really, that he feels that is mainly the Latino side. Okay. All of this is relevant to what I'm going to talk about today, because if we don't understand, then we're going to be in a situation where we are hating one another, or we're taught to hate one another, or we're taught that we're so different, not knowing that we have a long history of human interactions. This is so critical because a lot of people don't know that black people have been in the Americas for centuries. Now they know that, but they only look at it from the English speaking side because I speak English. But it's millions of black people in Latin America, Central America, who don't speak English. They speak Portuguese, they speak indigenous tongues, they speak uh, Espanol. Okay. Now, I love this conversation because it sheds a lot of light. In places like California, Los Angeles, it's a lot of hostility between the groups, right? In places like Phoenix, places like Dallas, Houston, especially dealing with people who are incarcerated, it really becomes really tense, right? And is politics. The work site, the job site. A lot of people are struggling to get jobs, and we don't know about this history. So I need to share one more video with you guys, maybe two more videos. Let me share my screen again. Um, so right here is an old map of the Americas. So you have Louisiana. This is what the French owned. Then Rupert's Land and the 13 colonies. This is what the British owned. And then all where you see the beige, this is what Spain owned. So you see Cuba, Haiti, a lot of the islands that's in the Caribbean, the Dominican Republic, um, Puerto Rico, Spanish Florida, Central America, South America, and even the Galapagos Islands. Now, a lot of people don't know this. Okay, so when I'm talking about the shared history that we have, this I want you to keep in mind this map. Okay, I'm going to walk you through this. I'm going to try to keep this stream with in an hour, but I have to walk you through this because the information is layered. Okay, and the information is layered. So a lot of people don't know this history. Okay, and we're going to talk about the tribes that were not of their ethnic group could not win or have a fair trial, right? And then a lot of these people, like Gaspar, Maria, and Beatrice, who were Native Americans, they were taken really young, and so that they could not adequately say that where their place of origin was. And so in the courts, what the Spaniards would argue is that these people were captured by the Portuguese, or that they came from the Azores or the Cape Verde Islands, or they came from other places that was controlled by the Portuguese, and therefore they were not truly from the New World. And this was done to keep them in slavery. Now, a lot of people don't know this, guys. Okay. Not that this is super complex, but a lot of people don't know the history of what was going on with the Native Americans. Okay, a lot of people don't know this. So what were I made some notes, okay? This is my personal notes, okay? And this is how I read. So when I read, I make notes while I'm reading, okay? And then this is called active reading. So when I'm reading the book, this is the book that I'm going over. I make notes on my tablet while I'm reading if I come across something significant. So okay, what was going on in Spain at the time? In Spain, they had a war going on in Spain with the Inquisition. A lot of people being converted, and then what ended up happening, or what later happened, was the Spaniards are going to get a foothold in the Americas, okay? And let me go back to the map. The Spaniards are going to get a foothold in the Americas. So the conquistadors, who were already people that was warring in Europe over the battle of Christianity and how Christianity would be practiced. So after the Reconquista, the reconquering of Spain, the Europeans push out the African Moors and the people who are Muslim, and they're going to force a number of people who are Jewish to convert. And then this is called the Alhambra Decree. Okay, so this is what happens simultaneously while this is going on. um the Pope at the time is going to make a decree saying a papal bull. I need to probably pull it up on the map, but saying that the island of Cape Verde and Azores Islands is going to be the dividing part of the world. So they're going to literally divide the world up east and west. So the Pope is going to say that everything west of the Azores and Cape Verde Islands, Cape Verde and the Azores Islands are going to become slave trading posts where people from Europe that's forced out of Spain and people in West Africa are going to be shipped into servitude coming into the new world, okay? Now let me show you where that is. So, okay. So the Pope is going to say that everything where this red dot is, everything west of that, which is the Americas, belongs to the crown of Spain. Okay. All of that belongs to the crown of Spain. And so what happens is when they come into contact with the Native Americans, when they come into contact with the Native Americans, they are going to introduce their religion of Catholicism. The Pope is going to make a papal bull called Romanus Pontifex. Okay. So the Romanus Pontifex is going to become the blueprint for conquest. Okay. And so Pope Nicholas V issues the papal bull. Now, this is before colonization, but they already had it in mind in 1455. They got here in 1492. So they stated that anyone that they conquered could be reduced their persons to perpetual slavery. Okay, and this was the first of the papal bulls of discovery, orders by the infallible Pope to enslave the non-Christians. Okay, now a lot of people don't know this. Okay, a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people do know this. And so what the author is going to discuss is what happens in these early years. Okay, so the Indians are enslaved by the Spanish, and then later the Spaniards are going to take over all of this land. But it didn't happen overnight. So in chapter 1, the author talks about Bartholomew de las Casas arrived in the New World in 1502. That's 10 years after Columbus. Okay, he goes in and talks about King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella in 1492, and they signed the capitulations of Santa Fe. Okay, so what for, Columbus asked Columbus asked the King and Queen of Spain, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, he asked them for honors, which would basically be like a stock option today in the stock market, guys. He said, "Hey guys, I'm going to go over here, but I want basically three things. One, I want a third of everything that we conquered. Okay. The next thing he asked for is that he would be made into a nobleman, basically, that he would get a rank that he could pass down to his heirs, and that his children's would be able to receive inheritance off of his name after they go to the Americas and conquer it." Okay. The third thing is he wanted a place in the Spanish monarch, basically. He wanted to be made into royalty. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but I learned this along the way, and I'm still learning, is that the way that the Europeans ruled is that when they conquered something, if they were royalty, they named it after their first name. If you were not royalty, then they use your second name, essentially. So this is why we have Columbus, Ohio. But then this is why they have places like Charlotte, North Carolina, who's named after Queen Charlotte, because she was royalty, so it was named after her first name. Okay. So what ends up happening is that Columbus comes, he discovers it. Then Columbus, he is actually buried in the Dominican Republic, guys. I don't know if you know this. Okay, so a lot of times, and we're living in a world now where people are going to start saying that certain people didn't exist. So he wanted titles and honors the rest of his life, which he could bequeath to his heirs and successors for all eternity. So this is no different than the stock market, guys, where a person says, okay, I am going to bet on this stock. This is how loosely stock options work. I'm going to bet on this stock, and if this stock increases in value, then I will make money off that stock. Okay, or let's say I bet that it's going to go down. They call this call and put, right? And if it goes down and I bet that it goes down, I still make money, right? This is essentially what was going on back then. He bet on himself. Okay, and he also asked for, okay, 1/10 of all the goods found. They said yes, but a lot of these people didn't think, in my opinion, that he would successfully return, but he did. And so he successfully returned in 1493. Then later on, about 25 or 20 years later, more Spaniards are going to start coming here. But they're still not great numbers, because this land was considered a wasteland or a world that they didn't quite know what it would become. But at the same time, they did have a religious um, undertones to the reasons that they wanted to come here. They actually looked at the New World as a place where they could practice their religion freely. Ironically, these same people were subjugating the Native Americans who was here, the indigenous people. Okay. So Hernan Cortez, when he gets to the Americas, okay, what ends up happening is that Hernan Cortez is going to be the person accredited for conquering the people known as the Aztecs, okay? And so what happens is King Montezuma is in Mexico City. King Montezuma is in Mexico City and Tenochtitlan. And basically Hernan Cortez is going to get with rival tribes, and they are going to, he's going to convince them to rage against the machine and go after the throne. So Hernan Cortez meets a conquistador by the name of Aguilar. Aguilar is a person who was a conquistador that was stranded in the New World, okay? And he actually had married a Native American woman. And what happens is that he is going to meet a Native American woman by the name of Malinali or Malinichi, and she's later going to be known as Marina. So let's see if I could Marina and Cortez. So what happens is Hernan Cortez is going to meet uh, a Native American man who sells him 20 slaves. Among the 20 slaves is this young woman named Marina. That's her Christian name. She is said to be about 11 or 12 years old. Okay. Now, some books document her as being that age, about 11, 12, 13 years old. Later revisionists, because we live in the modern time, puts her age at around 18, 19, or 20. But all documents from that time period put her as being a very young girl. Okay. Cortez is going to enter into a relationship with this woman. So she speaks a language called Nahuatl. Okay. So he meets Aguilar, who is a shipwrecked conquistador. And Aguilar, let's see if I could find excuse my mix, my spelling. So Aguilar is a a a ship. They have a statue of Aguilar, by the way, conquistador. So Aguilar, this is they have a statue of him. So Aguilar is a person who was considered the first European to have a baby with an indigenous person. So he was shipwrecked and he actually fights on side of the indigenous people against Hernan Cortez because he knows that the people that's coming in Europe, because he is from Europe, that these people are coming to, they're coming with it, that they're coming to destroy. They're not coming to um, have tea and crumpets. They're coming to subjugate the people. He has children with an indigenous woman. He learns to speak Nahuatl, and he's covered in tattoos when Hernan Cortez finds him. Okay. Well, instead of unaliving him, Cortez decides that he can use Aguilar to communicate with the natives, okay? Because he was like, okay, how am I going to communicate with these people? So what happens is, going back to Marina, Cortez speaks Spanish to Aguilar. Aguilar speaks Nahuatl to Marino or Malinichi, okay? Now, some people view her, she is, in my opinion, what I call her, is the most controversial woman in maybe American history, because they credit her with the fall of the Aztec Empire. But if you look at it from her perspective, she was a victim because she was sold into slavery by other Native Americans, which is why she sided with the Europeans over her native people. And then her people was also being enslaved. Okay. So slavery was existing already in the Americas by all counts. But what the Europeans are going to do with the slavery, they're going to take it to a whole new level. Okay. So La Maleniche is a term that and basically means like that she became known as a person who idolized everything foreign, right? A trader, right? Whew. So getting back to what's going to happen, Hernan Cortez is going to finally conquer the Aztecs. The first time he loses the battle, but then after he loses the battle, the diseases that the Spaniards have is actually going to be the catalyst that's going to help bring down the Native Americans. A lot of times people they think that it was the bombs, the guns, a lot of that stuff came much later. The number one thing that took down most of the Native Americans was that they didn't have an immune system that could protect them against the diseases that were coming from Europe. Okay. So when Hernan Cortez conquers, he's going to introduce what's called the encomienda system in the New World, which means that the Native Americans are going to be put into servitude. They are going to be forced to work, and then the goods and items that they produce are going to be sent back to Spain. So he's actually going to capture Native Americans, and then he's going to bring them to Spain. Native Americans in Spain will start to find themselves in the courts trying to fight for their freedoms. The difference between the Native American slavery and the African slavery. Now, let me back up a little bit. When Hernan Cortez came to the Americas, he had black people on the ships with him too. So the black people that was in Europe was also forced to come here. And many people believe that the Moors and the traders that was ruling Europe during the Middle Ages, during the Dark Ages, already had routes to come over here, which is when the Visigoths or the Spaniards finally conquer the darker skinned people, they're going to create a blood, um, I forgot the word for it, but it's like a standard where they're going to basically say no race mixing in Spain. Spain was the first country that we know of to introduce this, right? And they actually had laws with this in the Americas during segregation, but this came from Spain. So we know that the Moors was on the ships with him, and we know that the black people, some people from West Africa, was also being shipped here during this time period, also. But the difference between the African slave trade and the Native American slave trade. Now they had such an vengeance for the Africans because the Africans were ruling Europe, so they was already at war with these people. And so once they reconquered Europe, they made their way to the Americas, and then they started conquering the Native Americans. But that in Africa, they were taking, for every two men that they took only one female. In the Americas, since when they got here, it wasn't a lot of men in the Americas that was coming from Spain. They were taking women. Women were the preferred prize. So they were taking two women and child, versus men that are being trafficked to Europe. So this video that let me go back. Excuse me. World to Spain and Europe. Native Americans in Spain will begin to find themselves in the courts, and they're going to start protesting their freedoms. Um, in the Spanish enslaving the Native Americans, they favored to enslave the women over the men. So it was like 2 to 1 compared to the African slave trade, which was going on simultaneously, right? It was two males to every one female, but in the Native American slavery, it was two females to every one male. So they would take these Native Americans and they would ship them to Spain and Europe and put them in servitude, and they were being sent there to be domestics. A lot of people don't know that Native Americans, soon as the Spanish came, was being sent to the New World. Now, a lot of people don't know that, okay? And so this is why the video that I played earlier, if I could find it, Americans are being shipped from the New World to Spain and Europe. Native the video where people that were not of their ethnic group could not win or have a fair trial, right? And then a lot of these people, like Gaspar, Maria, and Beatrice, who were Native Americans, they were taken really young, and so that they could not adequately say that where their place of origin was. And so in the courts, what the Spaniards would argue is that these people were captured by the Portuguese, or that they came from the Azores or the Cape Verde Islands, or they came from other places that was controlled by the Portuguese, and therefore they were not truly from the New World. And this was done to keep them. Okay. So the reason that this was going on is because the the Spaniards were creating this system called the encomienda system. Okay. And now this system honestly is still practiced till this day to a degree. Now some people would say it's not, but the remnants of it. Okay. So most of the conquistadors fought in the Reconquista against the Moors, and they will basically have this thing for anyone that's not like them. Okay, Africans are going to be trafficked to the New World. I covered that. In the courts, the judges valued the opinions of Spaniards over the Native Americans. So now we're going to talk about King Charles. So King Charles and Bartholomew de las Casas is going to arrive in the New World in 1502. And then he's going to realize that that the way that the Native Americans, or the people known as the Native Americans in Central America, are being treated is so horrible that they want to amend the system. So this is like when we see in modern times when an investigation takes place and then the legislative branch states that they're going to pass new laws in order to fix things. But then things may change a little bit on paper, but they remain the same. So this is what's going to happen. They're going to claim that they end slavery of the Native Americans if they convert, but they're still enslaving them. So that's King Charles. Then his son, King Philip, who the Philippines is named after, is going to create what's called the repartimento system, another version of the encomienda system. So basically, what that means is that they would have to work on plantations, okay, and if they did not work on the plantations, bad things would happen to them. I would say it like that. So they would claim that they're not slaves, but they would be forced, they would be indentured service and they would be forced to work the lands. So what ends up happening is that silver mines and gold mines are going to be found in Mexico. And this makes it difficult for the Spaniards to enforce the ending of slavery because you see where I'm going with this. They want the money. So it's like they want to, a part of some of them want to end slavery, but the money and the power that comes from enslaving the Native Americans is going to supersede the want for justice. So they have what's called the mixing war. And this is for about the Native Americans to try and end slavery. Now, simultaneously, while all this is going on, there's other people that's also trying to end slavery in other parts of the world. So the slave system was so vast and it was affecting different people of different cultures, language, and ethnicity. Simultaneously, while they're conquering central Mexico, they're also going to conquer the Philippines. And so people from the Philippines are going to later be shipped to Mexico, and people in the Asian world are going to be sent to Mexico as slaves. Okay. And this is why a lot of people that's in Mexico or Central America, they have an admixture that where they look Asian because of their a lot of their ancestors come from Asia. Once again, a lot of people don't know this. So the slaves are given brands on their face to distinguish them from slaves by just wars and Indians who were enslaved by other Indians. So what the what the Pope and the Catholic Church is going to do, excuse me, they put a mark on their face to distinguish them from the slaves that were enslaved by just war. So what a just war is basically people who did not want to submit to the crown. Now, I want you to think about the logic in this because at that point, anyone that they try to conquer that do not go with them are going to be victims of what's called the just war. And so when I first read that they were given brands on their faces, can I show you what I thought about? This is what I thought about. Prince. This is what I thought about. Now, this was before my time, but I remember that this was going on. So let me go back and read this, okay? Because I want you to understand how what happened in the past affects us today. A lot of times, people, they don't necessarily understand how what happened in the past affects us today, okay? So Prince wrote slave on his face when he was trying to get out of his contract. And I'm going to read what this says. It says slaves were given. Now, this was in the 14th, the 15th, 16th century. Slaves were given brands on their face to distinguish them from slaves by just wars and Indians who were enslaved by other Indians. Man, if that doesn't, if that's not heavy, I don't know what is. So the Spaniards claimed that the Indians practiced slavery before the Europeans arrived. So this is how they justify the slavery. Like, hey, you guys were fighting before we got here, so it really doesn't matter. The Africans, the people from West Africa, and even other parts of Africa, war-torn Africa, the coastal areas, they are going to be shipped to the New World as well. And this is also how some of the this is part of the the transatlantic slave system. And this is why a lot of people in Mexico, Cuba, Puerto Rico, all of the islands there, a lot of them have three admixtures. They have African, European, and Asian. And they have indigenous blood too. But a lot of times people we are put in this caste system. So what happens is that the Spaniards are going to create a caste system, and the caste system. Let me show you this. So they are going to create this caste system, okay? And in the caste system, what the Spaniards are going to do is they're going to say that the white male mixed with the white female is at the top of the chart. Then it's going to go into all of the different makeups, and then at the very end of the caste system is when the darker skinned people are mixing with one another. Okay, and this is called the caste system. And this caste system is what is going to spread around the world. All of the places that these people go to, they spread this caste system. And this is the reason that we are in the position that we're in now. Um, Let me go home right quick and show you guys my studio. I'm gonna go to this video. I'm gonna explain to you how we got here, okay? Because a lot of times, do 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 do. A lot of times. Now look at this. If stop me when I stop telling the truth.
Like for those of you that don't know me,
What's going on?
like for those of you that don't know me, um,
Now, first off, when you first see this person, what did you think? You think European, right? Watch what she says. And then I'm going to read the comments that people left on my broadcast earlier today and what they said. See, this system, hold on. This system still exists. This is why I'm talking about this. It still exists. It still exists. This system still exists. And we have to, people like me, you know, I'm still learning. But my mom could attest to this. I always tell her we're in the encomienda system. That's what people don't realize. We're in the system. They already created the system. We're in it. But let me go back to the video.
I'm an immigrant, right? I immigrated from Brazil like almost 10 years ago now, and I clean Airbnbs for a living. And I arrived to one of my job sites today, and there's a car with a California permanent fleet sticker on the plate, which, if you don't know, that's an undercover ICE car. And I'm sorry, I'm trying not to be too, like, and then today I had to, and I never thought I was gonna have to do this, but today I had to text my friends, being like, please check with me later, because please just make sure I'm still here.
Okay, now let me show you guys something. Let me show you guys something. I'm gonna go to the comments. Now, see, some people don't like when the reason why you're going to see mostly people that's considered Black or Native American or Indigenous or foundational Black American, the reason why we're so vocal about the system without fear is because we have no choice. We have to tell people what's going on because we've had to stand up for ourselves all of this time. But see, race mixing has been going on so long to where you have people that, although they are a certain complexion, they are still not accepted by the Anglos. So someone commented, can you guys see this? It says bye bye. It says bye bye. Get out. Someone else commented, if you have legal papers, you don't have anything to worry about. Stop the victim mentality. If you are illegal, then bye. You had 10 years to get your issues fixed. Someone said, you cause your own problems. Somebody with a heart said, my heart breaks for you. Please be careful. Hope you are safe and continue to be safe. God bless you. Someone else commented, traitor. Okay. So sometimes we're told that we are imagining this. That when we talk about what's going on in the world, that we're imagining this, that it's all in our head. Okay. Now I'm gonna go back to the video, this video. Play it for you guys.
That exists within the Latin American communities. When I went to go talk to them, they said that we don't like African Americans because they feel that we owe them.
To their belief, we love y'all, and black people don't feel like you owe us anything except common decency and the same respect we give to the.
So what's going on is that we are in the encomienda system. This, let me show you. This chart right here, this chart that you see, we're in it. We're living in it. We are the result of this. And so this is why certain people, we are put in a situation where it's a misunderstanding, it's a conflict, even though in all actuality, we are at minimum cousins. And at maximum, if you really want to be honest, family. Now that's a deep topic, but a lot of people don't want to say that because, hey, if my family not treating me good, I'm not gonna rock with them either. But if you go back to what we were talking about, you would see that the Africans were being trafficked. You would see that the Africans were being trafficked to the New World also. You would see that the Africans were being trafficked to the New World also. One of my, what you call them, they went bad on me. Okay. So what ends up happening is that all of these people are put in subjugation. Have you ever noticed when you go to fill out a job application, you have to put what race you are, anything that's dealing with government documents? And we're often told that we should stop talking about race. We should stop talking about race. But race is entwined in the system. They made it this way. And we are the children, no matter what race you are. And like I said, I don't think anybody should be mistreated. I don't think anybody should be mistreated by the color of their skin, right? me reload this. From based on the color of their skin. I think that all people should be treated with kindness, love, and respect. And so this was a good episode, you guys. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to do a deep dive on this Wednesday, and I'm going to really get into the meat and potatoes. This was really just an introduction, right? This topic is so vast. This was just an introduction, but to show you how we're all so interrelated. That picture of what I read, what they were doing in the 1500s and of Prince, you don't see how that's, you don't see how deep that is, how we are the result of the past, the videos that I showed you. So, um, with always, I want to thank the viewership. Earlier today, guys, I actually hit a milestone for me. I had nearly 100 people on my stream, guys, that viewed my video and my live. Now, on my long form videos, because people could watch it at their desired time, I get a lot of streams on those videos. But I actually am now preferring to go live because I like the interactive. I like that I like the interaction, and I also like that I could control my environment by going live. I could get deeper into a topic. I like to thank everybody that viewed this video, and I'm going to play some music to exit us out, and I am going to continue this discussion later on um, Wednesday, where we can discuss this topic in great detail. Peace.